In this video, I transition from a belt-driven Thrustmaster T300 to a direct drive wheel, the Moza R9, and all from an older gamer's perspective. There are plenty of videos reviewing the T300 or the Moza R9, but here I wanted to give my personal feelings on what it's like to transition from a belt drive wheel to a direct drive wheel. And I'm doing this so you can perhaps be better informed if you really need to go direct drive just yet.
But we need it.
To be very honest with you, I haven't owned or used a Thrustmaster T300 for very long. In fact, I had it for about 2 months, and in that time I came to realise the RSGT pedal set that comes bundled with the wheel is not really much good. I mean, it's okay. The throttle is a bit springy, but fine for the job, and the clutch, when I use it, is usable. But the brake is just horrible. It has almost zero realism, and it replicates a real live brake pedal in the same way I replicate the good looks of George Clooney. In fact, I used the supplied pedals for about 2 weeks before I upgraded to a Thrustmaster T-Lcm pedal set that features a load cell brake pedal and a more consistent driving experience. I will fully review this pedal set in another video. Of course, once the pedal set was upgraded, it was only a matter of time before I'd want to upgrade the wheel, and the obvious choice was one of the lower cost direct drive wheels. I chose the Moza R9 partly because I didn't want the lower powered variants such as the Moza R5 or the Fanatec CSL DD5, and partly because I like the design of the Moza wheels, and the price of the basic Moza ES wheel was also one I could live with. Even so, it is an expensive upgrade, but is it worth it? Is it worth changing from a belt-driven wheel, the T300 with 2.9 Newton meters, to a direct drive, the R9, with 3 times that power? I figured the best way to test this would be to run a race in iRacing on the same circuit and with the same car, using first the T300, then the Moza R9. I'm racing against AI drivers in order to cut down on the variables as much as possible, and the car I chose was the MX-5, partly because I have a fair amount of experience driving this in iRacing, and partly because I used to own one in real life and have a soft spot for this car. The race is 5 laps on the Knock Hill International Circuit, with me gridded at P4 with 6 cars in the field. I narrate while driving to give a first-hand experience of what it's like to use either wheel. There is a wheel cam and a pedal cam, although the pedals stay the same for both wheels that I test.
Hey, let's go racing!
There we are on the grid, with gridded 4th out of 6 cars. And just waiting for the green, and away we go. Okay. Fair to middling start there. Never quite get the start right on the clutch there. Maybe somebody could comment below and tell me how I should be doing that better. Okay, we'll come in here. Got to be a bit careful. We're still on cold tyres, as is everybody else, of course. But I obviously don't want to spin off and watch all these people sail past me. At the same time, I don't really want to see 2nd and 3rd sailing off into the sunset. So T300 force feedback in iRacing does feel a bit better than Project Cars. It's not quite as lumpy. That's to be expected, I suppose, because Project Cars is end of life now and iRacing is always being updated. But still, there is this feeling that the T300 is not really giving me the full picture of what's going on here. I'm not always getting all the information from the wheels that I might need. That's just a feeling though, I don't really know, so it's going to be really interesting to find out when I go to the direct drive, the Moza R9 in this case, what that will give me as an extra. Whoop, where are you going, buddy? Now, you see, in Project Cars, I'm pretty much sure I would have picked up a time penalty for what that car just did, but he seems to be fine. Okay. Oh, and we're through to 3rd. So let's see if we can catch up. There's only 5 laps on this, just to keep it down to something realistic for a test, so we're not sitting here for hours, but that does of course mean I don't have a lot of time to catch a leader. There we go, I totally stuffed up that corner. Anybody in the comments could tell me how to do that corner possibly a little bit better. I'm never quite getting it. Sometimes I get it really good and sometimes I just don't do it. Oh. They're having a little bit of a fight there, so number 2 just took first place. That's interesting. I wonder if these 2 guys are actually going to take each other out. They've done me a favour because number 2 is, or who is number 1, was number 2, is the slower driver of the 2, and so he's holding up number 1 for me now, and I can catch him up, which is nice. Okay, so I'm going to try and see if we can get a bit of drafting here. I think I'm probably too far away for that. I'll maybe try and catch him on this corner. Whoa, there we go. There we go. Oh, went a bit wide there. So did he by the look of it, so a comfortable second place now. There you go, confirmed by the spotter. So now I need to not crash and also catch up this guy who just did actually, I mean, he must have a time penalty for that, surely. Let's get, whoop. Oh, I'm off as well, no. Come back, yep, managed to hold it. This is what happens when the pressure gets on you. Kind of like all your driving tactics just go completely out the window. Yeah, I just went down to first gear there, nearly blew the engine. Oh dear. Oh dear, Paul, what are you doing? You're just all over the place. Okay. Back on track again. White flag. Can I catch this guy on the last lap? I doubt it. If you come down the straight, if I just take my hands off the wheel there slightly. Not really feeling much there. You get a few bumps here and there. See that Project Cars, there was a lot more information coming in, but it felt gritty. In iRacing, there's not as much information coming in, and it feels slightly muted. And whether I can improve on that using the settings that we've got available to us in the Moza software, the Pit House software. Yeah, generally speaking, with the load cell pedals, I think the T300 makes a lot of sense. It becomes a very smooth wheel, you can control it a lot. You get a reasonable amount of feedback and a reasonable amount of information. You can see it's bouncing a bit there. Whoop. And there. I did that corner a bit better that time. Okay. So we're through. We're in second place there from where we gridded.
And that was the Thrustmaster T300. In summary, a great wheel that offers one of the best force feedback experiences for this price category. But ultimately, it feels muted, and the tug of the belt drive on the wheel interjects into the realism of the moment. In short, it's good, great even for the price, but it's not brilliant, and there are drawbacks. Then I tested the Moza R9, although it's important to mention that I did this test after first using the wheel for over a week in order to familiarise myself with the overall feel of a direct drive wheel. I also calibrated the wheelbase using the wheelbase recovery and reset option in the Pit House software, as initially I was having some lumpy force feedback, but this does seem to have cured that problem.
Knockhill in the Mazzy, we're gridded fourth, 6 cars here, and we're using the Moza R9. What difference will it make to my driving? It's kind of cheating really, because this isn't my first race with the Moza R9. I spent a week with it so that I could get to grips with how it works, how it feels, and also to alter the Pit House software. There are a lot of settings in there, and no matter what anybody tells you on YouTube, one size does not fit all. You will need to go through each and every individual setting to find the combination that works for you in the software that you like, iRacing, Assetto Corsa, Project Cars, whatever, and also for the car that you're driving. It's really not as simple as putting in some settings and then it will work for everything. I've found with iRacing, I've got these settings. I'll share them with you once this race is over. We're off on this straight now. One on the left, but we're okay. And the steering now feels very responsive. I have everything I want from the information of it. If I get into a slide, I can feel it. And I can react to that slide and I can correct it. I can feel plenty of texture on the track, the speed bumps and the sand and everything else. That was a bit cheeky, wasn't it? But is it life-changing? No, it's not. It's better than the T300 in some ways, perhaps many ways. Can you get away with using a T300 and still win? Yes, of course. Yes, people have been doing that for a long time now. Will you win races if you buy a direct drive? Probably not, no. Because you still need to have a certain amount of skill to use it. And if you don't have it, the direct drive's not going to give that to you. But if you practice and if you find the right set of settings that suit your driving style, the direct drive is magic. It really is. It suddenly unleashes your creative abilities of driving, or it does with me. I found that I am more consistent with my lap times. On some tracks I am even much faster than I ever was with the T300. I'm still the same driver. I've still practiced as much as I have, so it's not really anything to do with that. It is simply that this wheel is more precise. It shows me what I'm doing in a very accurate way, and I'm able to capitalize on that. Whoops, AI buddy going off the track there. To get faster and more precise and keep it on the track as well. It was something I found was difficult with the T300 sometimes, was just keeping the car on the track. See, I went into a slight spin there. Really, the feeling to correct it was very natural. Now coming to this. Again, overcooked the acceleration on the exit of that corner, began to lose the rear end, and I was able to correct it. The wheel told me the information I needed to know to run those corrections. Whoop. Whoop. There we go. And we go. And we're through. He's hunting me. That was bad, that corner. I'm always nervous when people are right on my tail, even when they're AI drivers. That's okay. I think we're going to make this corner. Try not to overdo it. So yeah, direct drive wheel. It gives you a more consistent lap time. It gives you a better feeling of what the car is doing. And dare I say it, it's a lot more fun. It certainly feels less taxing. I don't know why it was with the T300, but sometimes when I finished a race with that wheel, I would feel quite exhausted from wrestling it around with the belt-driven feedback, kind of like fighting me quite a lot. And with the direct drive wheel, once you have the settings right, once you work out where you need to be and how it works and how it works for you, it is a pleasure to drive. It's not at all taxing. I can drive 3 or 4 races of an evening with this wheel, and with the T300 I did 2 and then I was done. Is this wheel going to change your life? No, I don't think it will. I don't think it ever will. If you combine it with load cell pedals, I think it makes a lot of sense. I think a direct drive wheel without load cell pedals is half the story. Load cell pedals with a belt-driven wheel like T300 is probably a fantastic upgrade. And if you can't afford a direct drive wheel, or you can't afford a good direct drive wheel, I would have said go with the load cell pedals first and then think about the direct drive at some point in the future. The difference between a belt-driven wheel and a direct drive wheel is, sad to say, like night and day. It really is. You will love a direct drive wheel if you get one. But if you don't have the money, a T300 is also a lot of fun when combined with load cell pedals. But if you can afford the Moza R9 and load cell pedals, you are going to have so much fun. Yeah, over and out.
And that was the Moza R9. In summary, a fantastic wheel that gives so much more feedback to the drive in a very subtle and understated way. But the important thing to note about this video is that I spent a considerable amount of time in the Pithouse software and the iRacing options page sorting out the optimal settings for the R9. It really is not a plug and play device. It needs care, attention, a bit of understanding of what the various settings do, and lots of test laps to see if each setting you change will be for the better. In order to find out what each setting did and how it affected my lap times, I zeroed everything, then introduced one element at a time, taking note of which settings had a knock-on effect on any other settings. Eventually, after about 80 laps and a couple of AI races, I was happy with the choices I made. I ended on this combination that we're looking at here in the various Pithouse screens, and this setting in iRacing. That's not to say this is a definitive guide to the perfect settings to drive the MX-5 in iRacing with the R9. It is simply the settings that best suited my style of driving. Your style of driving is almost definitely going to be different and will almost definitely require settings that are completely different from mine. Put simply, if you are looking for a wheel that you can get out of the box, plug in and race, then the Moza R9 and probably most other direct drive wheels are not for you. In which case, I would recommend the T300, which when combined with a load cell pedal set is probably the best non-direct drive wheel on the market today.
But hey, you know what? That's just one guy's opinion.
Outside of the driving style, the physical differences between the T300 and the R9 are not massive. Both come with interchangeable wheels, although the T300 requires a screwdriver to remove it and is as such not actually a quick release system. The default T300 wheel with the RSGT kit is approximately the same size as the lowest cost wheel for the R9, the ES. I think the ES is slightly smaller in diameter, but it wasn't something that I really noticed at all while racing. For the MX-5 and I would suspect for most road racing cars, this wheel, similar to the T300, is about the ideal size for sim racers. They both feature a nice selection of controls, specifically aimed, it would seem, at the PlayStation or PC user, even though the R9 is not officially supported by the PS bandwagon. The Moza ES wheel has a nice radio button, and the paddles are arguably a little snappier to use, but essentially there isn't much difference between them, except the actual material covering the wheel itself. On the T300, the material is some kind of fake leather that's actually fairly pleasant to touch, while the Moza ES wheel has some kind of fake leather that's not very pleasant to touch, and worse still, seems to invoke sweaty hands after only a short time of driving, something that never occurred while driving the T300. If you do get the ES wheel, I would advise you also to get a pair of sim racing gloves, like my natty orange ones here that also match my chosen car colour. I attached both to my GT Omega art rig, and both were accommodated by pre-drilled holes, and both were super easy to fit. Whether or not the R9 is suitable for use with a desk clamp, I am not so sure, but I didn't try it, so you will have to look elsewhere for an opinion on this topic. So do I regret my transition to the R9? And more importantly, was it worth the upgrade price? Once I combined the T300 with a load cell pedal, I got a decent driving experience out of this wheel. However, the R9 combined with the load cell pedal added another level of consistency to my driving experience. I don't go that much faster with the R9, but I have found a superior level of control that allows me to stay on the track and have a more consistent lap time, leading eventually to faster lap times. In fact, after just a short time of using the R9, I won my first ever race in iRacing, which I documented in this video, link below. No, the Moza R9 is not life-changing, but also is not disappointing, and I do not regret the upgrade. In fact, kinda wish I'd skipped over the T300 and gone direct drive from the onset. And that about sums up how I feel on the transition from the T300 to the R9. It wasn't life-changing, but it wasn't disappointing either, and boy, am I enjoying the experience. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click the like button, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe. Click the little bell icon if you want to be notified of any future videos.